Hey you guys, I'm going to talk about viruses and vaccines today. Um, but I don't want to start with the coronavirus because nobody knows what that is, right? Let's start with one that we do know a lot about, the smallpox, because it's been around forever, right? In my 1970, I think it's 7, let's see. I'll tell you. In the 13th, it is 1977. In the 13th edition of Tabor's Cyclopedic Medical Dictionary, says smallpox is an acute contagious febrile disease, the constitutional symptoms of which are followed by the appearance of an eruption. Okay, I can read this to you from my dictionary. It's much more graphic, but I don't know that you'll be able to hear me. The differential diagnosis of smallpox and chickenpox. That's this chart down here. Can you see that? Can you see that? I don't know. Can you see that? I'm going to read it to you. It doesn't matter. General symptoms. Smallpox may be severe with pyrexia, backache, prostration, etc. for 3 to 4 days before appearance of eruption. Eruption type. About 4th day of illness. Papules before vesicles. Deep, often shoddy. All spots at same stage of development. Pustules appear on 8th day. Maximum on distal parts, not in axillae, AXILLAE, or groins. Okay, now chickenpox. General symptoms are mild and appear at same time as rash. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm really blowing the reading of this chart. Do you see? It's like all divided up into sections and subsections. It's easy to process, but not easy to read. Erupts on the first day. This is chickenpox. The type is maculopapular for a few hours, then vesicular. Appearance, successive crops, therefore all stages present at the same time. Distribution. Maximum on trunk, present in axillae. Okay, so the reason you have this differential diagnosis down here is because, I got this part off of Wikipedia. It's used to identify the presence of a disease entity where multiple alternatives are possible, like smallpox, monkeypox, and chickenpox. And the way you determine the disease entity is through manifestational criteria, symptoms and signs like these that we just read. And then causal criteria, what happened? Is there a chain of events? So like casual criteria, what happened? Well, my dog got into poison ivy the day before. Oh, okay, well maybe you're having an allergic outbreak versus smallpox, right? An interesting note about smallpox, by the way, its origin, I found this on Wikipedia too. Its origin is unknown, but the inoculation started in China. So, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? So you have this vaccine. What is a vaccine? You had vaccines started in China, right? That's what an inoculation is. That is what an inoculation is. Let's see. I have not prepared anything for this talk. I just got out a book. Welcome to my TED Talk. Inoculation. It's back here. To inject a microorganism, serums, or toxic materials into the body. This can be accomplished by using a needle and syringe, by scarification of the skin, or by some special techniques such as a very high-speed jet of air capable of a force sufficient to carry a liquid solution into the skin. Inoculation is the process of being inoculated. Let's see, there's animal inoculations, but turn the page. Is that important? Do we care? Maybe. Maybe. Oh, it's just the process of injecting lab animals to immunize them, to investigate the effects of the inoculated material upon the animals. Oh, all vaccines are tested on animals. Okay, that's what that says. That's what that says. Vaccine. A suspension of infectious agents or some part of them given for purpose of establishing resistance to an infectious disease. Okay. At the time, 1977, there were 16 inoculations. Can you read any of that? Probably not, right? There's 16 vaccinations on the schedule. Starting with an alphabetical order, I think. Yeah. Cholera. See comments. Only administered to those traveling to countries where cholera is present need to be vaccinated. Only those traveling to countries where cholera is present need to be vaccinated. Okay. Let's see. Measles, rubeola. It's usually administered at 1 year, but may be given as early as 6 months during an epidemic. Booster schedule. If vaccinated before 10 months of age, should be revaccinated within a year. And comments. Vaccine will usually prevent measles if given within 2 days after a child has been exposed to the disease. Not given to adults. Okay, so one right there in 1977, they're already telling you that babies don't need to get the measles vaccination. Get exposed, get the vaccine, you're covered. Okay. The plague, recommended for those traveling to Southeast Asia, persons who work closely with wild rodents in plague areas, and laboratory personnel working with Yersinia pestis organisms. Polio. No comments on polio. I'm missing a book. Otherwise, we could talk about polio. Rabies. Each exposure to rabies needs to be evaluated on an individual basis by the physician. So, okay, out of the 16, already four. Not necessarily necessary. Let's look at this page. Smallpox. Not recommended as a routine procedure in the U.S. Those who travel to foreign countries in which smallpox is an endemic do need this vaccine. Of course you do. Do you want to hear the other definition? It's awful. It's awful. Let me get this book. Hold on. More to go. Smallpox. An acute infectious virus disease characterized by vomiting and an eruption which is first papular, then vesicular, and finally pustular. Also by fever, which is marked by a distinct remission, beginning with the eruption and continuing until the latter becomes pustular. The period of incubation is about 12 days. The eruption beginning about the 3rd or 4th day after incubation, with the formation of small red spots on the forehead, face, and wrists. This eruption spreads over the body. The pustules finally dry up and break, forming soft yellow crusts. After a week, the scabs fall off, often leaving pitted scars or pockmarks. So, yeah, gross. All right, you go back there. Okay, so there are cases where you do need or probably should get a vaccine. Oh, let's see if anything. I got this book out too, but I don't think it's going to become relevant. It's from 1952, Essentials of Histology, second edition, by Margaret M. Hoskins, PhD, and Jarrett Bevelander, PhD, of New York University. And histology is the study of tissues. Well, here, let me just read it. Let me read it. Oh, I love it when you buy an old book and they're already underlined. Isn't that cool? Let's start there. The epithelial tissues, blah, 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 muscle, blah, 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 elementary tissues. It will be our object in the study of organs to analyze each into its component parts and relate this analysis to the results of physiological studies. Okay, so let's see if smallpox is in here. May or may not affect tissues in that sort of way. Smallpox. No, I have small intestines. How about viruses? No virus, no vaccination. Okay, so this may not come into play at all, but it's still a pretty cool book, right? I like it. I like it. I don't understand any bit of it. I mean, you know, what is that? What is that? Can you tell? That is a portal canal containing a branch of the portal vein, a branch of the hepatic artery and bile duct. Oh, it's in your liver. Notice in the upper left-hand part of the figure a small vein opening into a sinusoid. Nope. Yeah, no, I don't see it. I don't get it. I guess that's what it looks like under a microscope. Okay, anyway, so let's get back to this. Okay, so we have these different viruses. Endemic. I wonder if an endemic is different from a pandemic. I'm gonna need the dictionary again. Endemic. Said of a disease peculiar to and more or less recurring continually in a particular locality or population, but only in a small number of cases, used in contrast to sporadic or epidemic. Okay. I need some more. Oh no, it's been so bad. See if I can find pandemic in here. Sorry if I'm boring you. Pandemic. A disease infecting the majority of the population of a large region of which is epidemic at the same time in many different parts of the world. Are they really using that word to describe the coronavirus? Didn't the CDC just put out numbers like even for somebody as old as Donald Trump, like he only has 0.028% chance of dying from this disease. Like, if you told me I had a 10% chance of rain, which is significantly higher, I probably wouldn't even grab an umbrella. Wow. You guys, we really need to learn what words mean. Okay. Since we're at it, okay. All right, I'm gonna go here. Okay, the coronavirus comes from Latin, corona, crown, and virus, which means poison. A group of viruses responsible for some, but not all, common colds. So named because their microscopic appearance is that of a virus particle surrounded by a crown. Well, viruses are scary, right? Viruses are scary, and of course we want to, I mean, look at smallpox. Nobody wants smallpox. Nobody wants polio. You know, yeah, no, I'll stay healthy, thank you very much. Let's see. What were we looking for? Virus, right? Okay. Oh, this is a long definition. I know you can't see that. Okay, virus. It comes from Latin for poison. Originally, this word meant any organism capable of causing an infection, but this usage is obsolete. Rather, it is a minute organism not visible with ordinary light microscopy, and a parasite dependent on nutrients inside cells for its metabolic and reproductive needs. Some bacteria share these properties, but not the distinctive features of viruses, such as their simple organization and composition and their mechanism of replication. Viruses can be seen by use of electron microscopy. They consist of a strand of either DOX ribonucleic acid, DNA, or ribonucleic acid, RNA, but not both, separated by a capsid, a covering of protein. Okay, so I looked up some of this shit on Wikipedia. When not inside a cell, viruses exist in the form of independent particles or viruses? There's the genetic material, a protein coat, and then it's enveloped by lipids. So it's basically, a cell. It's, if you will, if you've ever been climbing up an enchanted rock, and when it rains, those little depressions on the top of the rock will fill with water and come to life with little plants and little microscopic, well, not microscopic, they're actually, you can see them. You can see the shells and these little things come to life, and they move around, and then it dries up, and where did they go? People step on them and they're swept away, you would think, but no, then it rains and they come back. That's like a virus. That's just how a virus works, right? They have different realms, Duplo, Nevarian shit, but we don't care about that. Let's see. Okay, so a virus either has DNA or an RNA genome, and the majority are RNA. The DNA is the double strand. It kind of looks like Hermes' staff, the catechus, the doctor thing, carries genetic instructions, but there's two of those. One of them has two snakes and one of them has one, and I forget which is which. Okay, so anyway, DNA carries genetic instructions for the development of functioning, growth, and reproduction. And RNA is a single strand. Okay? Now, most viruses are RNA, but then you have like HIV 1 and 2, those have RNA and DNA. Viral populations do not grow through cell division. They use the machinery and metabolism of a host cell to produce multiple copies of themselves. So they replicate. It's like a little yeast. a little yeast can affect the whole batch. Now, oh, I saw it online and I forgot to write it down, but they like moist areas because they're viruses. That's why. Oh, I don't remember. I better not go there because I really don't remember. I was talking more about this shit. I was looking at, but this is a whole other book. See, I'm not even here yet. I haven't even gotten to this book. Okay. So viruses, they do not use cell division. They use the cells, machinery and metabolism of a host cell, because remember they're parasites, to produce multiple copies of themselves. They contain what is called a DNA polymerase. And let me spell this for you. Polymerase. Erase. Erase. A DNA poly eraser. Okay? So now you have your DNA or your RNA strand, right? And this has all this genetic material in it. And the virus comes in and it replicates part of this DNA, and then it lays it just right on top of another one. Like, okay? Like here's one strand, and then here's the other strand, okay? And now the virus is the one that's active. But it's hidden. It's hidden. It uses the cell's own machinery and metabolism to hide from the cell. Okay? Now vaccine. A suspension of infectious agents or some part of them given for the purpose of establishing resistance to an infectious disease. Vaccines are of 4 general classes. There's always a fly in here, sorry. I live by the lake. Those containing living attenuated infectious organisms, like the vaccine for smallpox and yellow fever. Those containing infectious agents killed by physical or chemical means, like the ones for rabies and whooping cough. Those containing soluble toxins of microorganisms, like for diphtheria and tetanus. And substances subtracted from the infectious agents, like pneumococci. I never thought I'd get a chance to say that word, pneumococcal. I used to see a commercial on TV all the time for pneumococcal something or another. Can't remember. They want you to go to the doctor for it and ask for a drug. Okay, so these vaccines will result more or less permanent protection against a disease. An attack of smallpox or diphtheria, for example, usually leaves the recovered patient permanently immune to those diseases. As a result of infection, the body succeeds in building up its own defenses so that a new infection causes no illness. A successful vaccine does the same thing without risk of illness. Okay, so without risk of illness. How do they determine the risk of illness for a vaccine? Okay, so I understand like Trump has just taken some kind of experimental vaccine for his COVID. And so now he's all better. But we know that COVID, because we just read this, coronavirus, a group of viruses responsible for some, but not all, of a common cold. Maybe we need to learn more about viruses. Let's learn more about viruses. Why is this so scary? Did I... More than 300 viruses have been isolated from animals. Oh, hold on. We don't need to go here yet. Let's go into this book. We haven't done this book yet. Let's look at this book. Okay, you know, a virus, this is from 1956. It's biology by Rellis B. Brown, the associate professor of biology at Lawrence College. Okay, now, viruses and bacteria are part of the Thylophyta classification of the plant kingdom. Okay. Plant phyla. We shall divide the entire plant kingdom into 4 great divisions, or phyla. Several characteristics differentiate one phylum from another, but we shall start with elementary ones to be elaborated later. This is the first one. Plants in the phylum Thylophyta have a body which is not divided into distinct vegetative tissues and organs. These are hard words, but I'm going to try this anyway. Plants in the phylum Bryophyta have differentiated vegetative tissues and organs, but no vascular tissues. Plants in the phylum Pteridophyta have differentiated vegetative tissues and organs, including vascular tissues, but most do not form seeds. Plants in the phylum Spermatophyta do form seeds. This classification has seemed to many botanists unsatisfactory. Okay, so you know that science changes, right? Y'all, science changes. It changes all the time. I want to refer you to this quote by Max Planck, the German physicist who pioneered quantum theory. So if you've seen The Big Bang Theory, you should be familiar with some of his work, but probably not this quote. A scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light, but rather because its opponents eventually die and a new generation grows up that is familiar with it. Okay, do you know what that means? That means science advances one funeral at a time. All botanists do not agree about the categorization of the plant kingdom, and what I'm about to read to you was perhaps maybe a little controversial even in 1956, but I don't really have any more updated sources, so that's what we're going to have to go with. Okay. So, all thallophytes are plants which have no distinct vegetative organs such as leaves, stems, and roots. Among the possible ways of subdividing the phylum, the one most commonly used at present is based on the method of obtaining nourishment. Hold on. Okay. Those which do not synthesize carbohydrates out of water and carbon dioxide in the presence of chlorophylls are called fungi. Those which do perform that synthesis with the aid of chlorophylls are called algae. Blah, 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 blah. To this class belong the viruses and bacteria. Okay, it's important, but not for us. Viruses are tiny bodies increasing in numbers when, and only when, they are in the protoplasm of other organisms. Viruses vary in size from about 10 to 300 millimicrons in diameter and may be spherical, cylindrical, or tadpole shaped. Since an object must be at least as long as half the wavelength of visible light in order to be visible, these viruses are invisible to the human eye. However, the electron microscope uses electron beams instead of light waves for its image-producing energy source, and these light beams may have a wavelength of 1/100,000th of that light. Images of virus particles may be seen and photographed by using such an electron microscope. The nature of viruses presents a very interesting problem. Like living organisms, they increase in numbers in suitable environments. They act as parasites in causing diseases in plants and animals. They may change their characteristics by mutation, and this change is preserved by heredity through subsequent generations. Yet, in contrast to our traditional concept of living forms, some viruses have been crystallized, stored in dried containers, kept for some time with no evidence of active metabolism, yet exhibit their disease-producing and reproductive powers upon reintroduction into living protoplasm of the specific type they parasitize. Further research, the change in characteristic expression. Oh, no. Okay. Further research into this phenomenon has shown that each virus particle may be a single protein molecule, or that it may be a cluster of molecules, some protein, some fat, some carbohydrate. Oh, well, it's got to have protein in it because it has the eraser. Of those composed of single protein molecules, some exhibit changed properties, mutations, if one or more amino acids in the molecule are changed, added, subtracted, or altered in proportion. This change in characteristic expression with a slight change in chemical makeup, together with the particulate nature of the virus and its ability to thrive and multiply within and only within a certain type of protoplasm, suggests that viruses may be genes. There may be some speculation that the first living organism may have been something very much like a gene or virus, but independent of additional protoplasm. Or the virus may be conceived as a parasite stripped down to the barest of essentials, simply one gene or group of genes capable of duplication in certain protoplasmic environments. We like to think, yeah. Among the viruses of particular interest to humans, aside from the theoretical considerations, are those which cause influenza, measles, mumps, polio, rabies, smallpox, chickenpox, yellow fever, and the common cold. 9. Okay. In addition, various animal and plant diseases caused by viruses are considerable economic importance because of the damage they cause. These include foot and mouth disease of cattle and hogs, hog cholera, horse encephalitis, rabies in dogs, and Newcastle disease of chickens among animals. Tobacco mosaic, peach yellows and dwarfing of onions, curly top of sugar beet, sugarcane gall, potato leaf roll, and tomato streak among plants. It's quite possible that some viruses exist which do not cause conspicuous disease symptoms in the organism which acts as host. But discovery of these must await refinement of technique and the use of some criteria and identification other than symptoms. It is apparent that a virus or any other parasite which damages its host to the point of destruction has then to find a new host or die. In a sense, the most successful parasites are those which do the least harm to their hosts, and thus enjoy the hospitality of a healthy organism the longest. Using that criterion, such virulent parasites as those of rabies and yellow fever are not as well adapted to parasitic life as the milder viruses of chickenpox and the common cold. Because, you get the common cold. People get it repeatedly, and chickenpox, and because I've seen commercials for this one, especially on when I had TV 33.2 or .1 or those off channels. There was always commercials for the pneumococcal pneumonia, and what was the word that I just read? The chickenpox. Do you have shingles? Shingles is the one that they always say. That's like the chickenpox mutated, and now when you're an adult it comes out as shingles. It's probably because you got the vaccine. Just saying, because a vaccination will inoculate you, but it doesn't say anything about rearranging your DNA back the way it was. Your DNA still has that damaged area. It just is not causing you current pain or discomfort. but a virus is a gene. So it's going, or it may be a gene. Maybe a gene. I don't know. Your kids will find out. Let's see, summary. Support is provided by the cell membrane and the cell wall. No, that's bacteria. Here are their review questions so you guys can think about this. Distinguish between algae and fungi. Can viruses be studied if they can't be seen? What is known about the nature of viruses? How do viruses affect humans? What are the characteristics of a successful parasite? General questions. Do the viruses constitute a natural or artificial taxonomic group? What characteristics would you use to determine whether or not viruses are living organisms? What methods might be used to locate viruses which do not cause disease symptoms? If humans could suspend and renew metabolism as viruses seem to do, would our concept of time be changed? Bacteria. Okay, well, we might not be done with that, but let's see. Oh, shoot, my cup got that area wet. Y'all, I gotta go get a napkin. Okay. So the medical dictionary is more up to date, right? 1977. Let's finish the definition here. Okay. More than 300 viruses have been isolated from animals. Some of these appear to be harmless to man. However, viruses cause a variety of important infectious diseases. Among them, the common cold, smallpox, yellow fever, most childhood diseases, and the majority of infections of the upper respiratory passages. Certain viruses cause cancer in laboratory animals, but evidence they cause cancer in man is inconclusive. A virus was first synthesized in the laboratory in 1967. This was done by using natural virus DNA as a template for forming the synthetic virus DNA. Okay. Let's go back to the coronavirus, which our dear president, our dear leader, is now recovered from. Thank God, huh? I'm sorry. I wish you well, Trump. I do. I wish you well. My husband asked me to vote for you in the first election, but I don't think I'm going to vote in the second election. Anyway, I'll do another video on that later. And yeah, I'm still going to upload this too. So let's see who makes it to 38 minutes, and I hope you guys join me. But anyway, back to the coronavirus. From the word Latin, corona, which means crown. It's also the, it's where we get our word coroner. Coroner. An official, originally, of the English crown. Okay? An official of the English crown. Your coronavirus is an official of the crown. I would encourage all of you guys to think highly before you get any vaccine whatsoever. You know, if you step on a rusty nail in the middle of a pasture, by all means, get a tetanus shot. And if you are traveling somewhere where, you know, you're going to get horrific digestive issues, take precautions for that. Just, you know, use common sense. Use common sense. But, you know, they push through a lot of things that time will tell. There's a reason why they tell you events like this were planned 100 years ago, because even people that were born in 1977, when we picked up this book, 16 immunizations, and not all of them recommended. Me, I have this one right here, the one that they give you with all the little needles in it. I know I've had one here, and I still have the scars from them. You can see them, or a shot or something. How about you, parents? Have you ever held down your babies, your precious, precious babies? Well, a doctor or nurse practitioner came and gave them this life-saving vaccination. For what? A disease that they may get if they travel to a foreign country, or that will affect them if they're sexually active in their 30s. I'm looking at you, HPV. Why does a baby need that shot? Get the shot when you're in your 30s and you're doing it. These things don't make sense. And anything that you see a commercial for or an advertisement for, they are selling you something, and that includes if it comes from the government. They want you to buy something. I don't know why they need you to buy something. You can say, why is it a conspiracy? They make the money, they give you the money, now they want the money back from you, and they want more. They want more than the money that they gave to you back from you. Where are you going to get it? I don't know. But you better think about it. You better think before you give them any more. Because you give them consent when you let them vaccinate you. You give them consent when you vote. You give them consent when you participate in any part of this proper matrix, right? But how are you going to avoid it? I drive my car. And I have participated in the driver's license program because I have requested the right to use the streets. So I don't think anyone has all of the answers, but I bet if we all start talking about what we question, we might figure some things out. So anyway, thank you for listening to me read from these old books, and I think they'll be available soon on my Etsy store. So if you guys want to check that out too, you're more than welcome to send me some money and read them for yourself. All right? I can't keep all this shit forever. Talk to you later.